recording. Just as a quick reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording. So you don't have to do anything there in order to receive that. You should get it either immediately or at least within the next 24 hours. And happy early Memorial Day, everybody. So I'm going to hop off video, like I said, just to conserve my bandwidth, just in case I need to. I probably need to change internet providers, just haven't gotten around to that yet. And we are here to talk today about 3 keys to strategic career planning. And we're going to be showing and using some of the tools that we use with our clients to help them plan their career path, not just for the next 3 months, but for the next 3 years and beyond. And if any of you have not joined us before or don't know who I am, I'm a certified career coach, speaker, and author. My company is based in Atlanta, Georgia, where I am, but we have coaches and resume writers all over the country. I've been coaching and training since 2002. So I turned 50 this year, and there's a lot more gray hair going on underneath. I'm just trying to figure out how to color it. Haha. And I have an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And the advice that we're going to give you today and the resources and tools in this next half hour are advice that we give to all of our clients to help them think bigger picture about their strategic career plan and make sure that they're incorporating all of the elements that we want them to incorporate. So here are our 3 keys listed on this next slide for our agenda. We're going to talk about how to define your internal and external priorities using our ideal career model to make sure that you're checking all the boxes, so to speak, and covering everything that you need to and you don't forget something. Key number 2 is to help you establish realistic yet meaningful goals, because the sense of fulfillment and meaning has just become so much more important to us these days, I think, post-COVID. And then key number 3 is developing your plan. And by the way, I know there's a lot going on in the economy and the market and everything else too. And the advice that we're going to give you still remains true and kind of holds true, even regardless of kind of, what happens with the job market. You may need to adjust your thinking in terms of what is going to be realistic for you, but we still want you to incorporate all of these elements, because if you miss one, you could end up on the wrong track. So let's dive in. We all know COVID changed the way we worked, or the way we do work today. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to the way it used to be. What we have seen with our clients and what we suggest to them is a few things on the right-hand side, that we want people to focus on fulfillment even more. That's something that we've seen people do more so. And we think that's one of the silver linings or a positive thing that has come out of all of the changes in the past several years. So it's really important to find ways to remain engaged at work long-term, and not just think about, okay, what's my next step, but what my values are and what my strengths are and how do I want to be leveraging those long term. And leveraging our ideal career model is a really good place to start to help you sort through all of this and make sure you're covering all of our bases. We have always believed that career management and being proactive about it is really important. And we've always asserted, so to speak, that our jobs are one of, if not our best asset. And we need to treat it as such and make sure that we're paying attention to it, nurturing it, planning, et cetera, because things can happen, as we all know, and as a lot of us unfortunately are experiencing this year with layoffs, whether it's, right sizing, getting laid off, relocating, whether we go into a recession towards the end of this year. And also this idea of a gig economy has been emerging for the past several years too. There's lots of different things that can change the course of our career, and we want to make sure that we're ready for it. And we are making those changes proactively versus reacting. And the only kind of good news, for lack of a better way to say it, I think, about the layoffs that are occurring and just how much people have changed jobs in the past, several years, whether they had to or not, is that people are changing jobs just more and more so. It's becoming more of the norm. And again, this goes back to how important it is to remain fulfilled, stay challenged so that you don't get bored, and make sure that you're marketable. And that means you've got to be clear about your goals and direction. And the first key that we want you to consider and use is to make sure that you're evaluating your internal and external priorities really, really well, and considering all of the pieces of our career model so that you know where you're going, you know what the right fit is, and you're planning long term for what your next 3 to 5 steps are. And we'll look at this model together for the next few minutes in the next couple of slides. So, the way we want to use this model, because we want you to incorporate all of these pieces into your strategic career plan. So what we do with our clients is we've got a template and we'll use an Excel spreadsheet with them to make sure they're covering all of their bases here. And we start always with fulfillment. This is your career values, what's going to give you a sense of meaning in your work, what's the mission of your organization, that or the type of organization that you want to be a part of, and having like a sense of accomplishment as well. And we actually want you to consider fulfillment first with your plan, because what we find is if people do that first, then they are going to think outside the box a lot more about what's going to be the right fit for them and what they want their goals to be. And they're also going to reach for and actually achieve or set higher goals than they would otherwise. We also know that every other piece of the model is impacted and kind of interplays with the fulfillment piece. For example, if you're not leveraging your strengths on a regular basis, then you're not going to be fulfilled. So if you miss this fulfillment piece, the other pieces are going to kind of fall down. So we want you to think about this first. What's going to give me meaning in the long run? And meaning and fulfillment can mean completely different things to different people. So it's really about what works for you at the end of the day. The enjoyment piece, the one we want you to incorporate into your plan next. We want you to be thinking too about the ideal tasks that you would like to be performing, or your main responsibilities for your job, but also those that are ancillary to your main, like the core of what you're supposed to be doing. So what could you work on all day, every day, and not get sick of it? That's a great question to ask yourself. But then also say to yourself, okay, in my ideal job long term, would I also like to be able to, do some speaking engagements or do something creative or whatever it is? What are those other things that you'd like to tack on and maybe add to your career path over the next few years if it's not already in there, what you want to work towards? So we start with fulfillment and enjoyment first. Fulfillment is the deep meaning piece, and the enjoyment, again, is about like the tasks that you want to perform, kind of makes it a little bit more tangible and tactical, but also those ancillary tasks as well. And then with the next pieces, we want you to next think about your strengths. So what strengths do you want to be leveraging at this point in your career path, but what would you like to add to your repertoire later on? And if you're not exactly sure what some of these are for you or what you'd like to attain later on, that's why we're here as coaches, is to help you kind of sort through this and figure this out and tell you what we would suggest based on your career path. Some of the future skills listed on this slide that are going to be important in the economy going forward in the next year or so are these listed here under future skills. And we want you to consider some of those, like how are you doing with those skills and strengths? And do you need to add some of those in order to remain marketable, challenged, et cetera, et cetera. We like for our clients to either leverage like the Strengths Finder assessment or work with us. We have a great workbook that helps people identify what their values and their strengths are. Your top 5 strengths, give or take, are enough to have. We don't need to look at 10 strengths, for example. That can get overwhelming for people. But you want to be thinking about, okay, am I leveraging the strengths that I want to leverage right now? And then what are the ones that I want to make sure that I'm developing over time? Include those into your strategic career plan. We also want you to then go to education and experience and think about same thing that I just said. What additional experience would I like to get? Does it make sense to try to work towards that in the next year? Or should that be year after next? Really forward thinking as much as you possibly can. And some of the things you might consider under education and experience, obviously, is what additional training would you like to get? New skills you'd like to attain or develop? Is there a certification that you'd, like to move towards? And new projects that you'd like to get under your belt, so to speak, things that you'd like to volunteer for, whether it's inside or outside of work. We have had clients do freelance consulting, or even volunteer work to gain additional experience and strengths. And they'll do a project for like 3 months, and they'll get a recommendation from the project leader, or a reference from the project leader or the client. And one of the websites that you can leverage to find volunteer experience and work projects like this is volunteermatch.com. And in some cases, the website idealist.org can point you to some of those opportunities too. So don't just think of the training and experience as always, okay, it's got to be on the job necessarily. Get creative with it. There are different ways to attain that. Let's look next at your personality type. You always, in your strategic career plan, want to be thinking about, okay, who are my ideal clients or customers? Do I want to work in-house and improve my own organization or business? Or do I want to be serving people externally? What's the right team for me? And how can I move towards, working with the right people and kind of my ideal team? And what's the ideal culture for me in the long run? If I'm at a small organization right now, do I want to be at a larger organization in 2 years in order to add that to my repertoire, for example? Okay. So think about the personality type and work environment as well. The things that I just referenced a second ago were mostly work environment. Let me point to personality here and backtrack for just 1 second. When you're thinking about your long-term career plan too, you want to be choosing and considering and thinking about roles that are going to move you in the direction, either move you up or into a new career path that you want and that's going to work for you. But you have to make sure that you're always considering your personality type. Like, are the roles and the organizations that you're choosing going to be a fit for that? Whether you're more introverted or extroverted, whether you're more of a big picture strategic thinker or more detail oriented, you've got to consider this and how it interplays with the work environment and the roles that you're considering. And then finally, last but absolutely not least, we want you to consider compensation. Where do you want to be in the next 5 years in terms of your salary, benefits, et cetera, et cetera? And remember, obviously, that compensation is not just about the money. In a lot of cases for people these days, we've got plenty of clients come to us and say, I want solely, a remote job or a hybrid job, things like that. So lots of different things that can go under compensation, if you will. So a couple of ways to help identify some of these pieces of the model and what they mean for you. We like for our clients, we talked about the Strengths Finder assessment a moment ago and the workbook that we have. We also like it when people interview other people to find out how they are viewed so that they fully understand what their brand is and how that can help them move forward in their strategic career plan. And if they need to adjust their brand a little bit in order to get to the next level. And on this slide are a couple of examples of things that you could ask people just informally to get some insights about what your strengths are and how you're coming across. And in terms of your values, we'll talk about this one more actually on the next slide. But what you'll notice when you're starting to think about fulfillment and your values is your values can kind of be present in a lot of different elements of the model, which will lead us in a moment to our second key, and attaching your long-term strategic career goals with your values. That will help you stay on track with that fulfillment piece, but also it'll give those goals a lot more meaning for you, and you'll be more likely to attain them and more motivated to attain them as well. So when we're looking at fulfillment and helping clients define fulfillment, there are a few things that we have them do. We have them think about and even maybe journal for a few minutes about how they define success. And I think this has changed over the past several years for a lot of people. Like, what is success to me is different at age 50 now than it was 10 years ago for a lot of different reasons. So you want to update this for yourself too. What does it look like now? Another way to define fulfillment is to think about, and we have some clients that will do a vision board to think about their ideal day at work and kind of imagine that. What qualities do they want it to have? What tasks are you performing? Again, work environment. You can use the model to come up with and think about or make sure you're covering all of your bases with your ideal day at work. And then finally, we really like our clients to go through a quick personal peak experience exercise to define their values. And this is basically where they're thinking about a peak experience in their life, a moment in time or a period of time, and what was cool about that for them, because that can give them clues to some of their possible values. If you feel like you need a little more help with this, obviously, this is what we do all day, every day. And we always offer a free strategy session to give people advice, but talk with them about coaching as well. And we've got a coupon code that for people who've attended today who'd like to use that towards one of their coaching packages, you can do that. You would just email us at admin@createyourcareerpath, and I'd be happy to set up a quick strategy session with you to talk more about what we do and how we can help and if it's a fit for you. Let's talk next about key number 2. So this is our second agenda item, and I referenced it a moment ago already. Ideally, if you base your career goals in your strategic career plan on your values, they're going to be not just like the right goals for you based on using the career model, but you're going to be more, motivated to achieve that goal, and it'll be more valuable to you holistically. And this is part of why people end up going off track with their career, is they haven't thought about what their values are and how they can align their career path as much as possible with their values. Nothing's going to be perfect, but when you're thinking about your strategic career plan and your goals, you need to think about what's realistic. So it's okay to push things out a little bit timeline wise, as much as needed to make sure that things are going to be realistic. But also, when you're thinking about each of your goals, see if you possibly can attach each of your goals to one of your values. You may not be able to. It may not be reasonable to do so with every single goal, but try to do that, because again, it's just going to give it that much more depth and meaning for you. And as part of what we want you to think about with your strategic career plan is think about, okay, given everything that's happened in the past several years, and also what's currently going on in the economy and everything else, what's realistic for you and what is important to you at this point? So what has changed for you due to COVID? What strengths do you want to continue to leverage versus those you might want to move on from? What strengths did you gain or showcase during COVID that you can say, okay, this is now part of my brand and I really need to own that? And on the right-hand side of this slide here, we've had a lot of people tell us that, what is meaningful to them has changed in some ways, and they want to work with people more or do something that gives them a greater or larger set of accomplishments or type of accomplishments, if you will. So just make sure that you're thinking and not just going with, okay, well, I've always said that I wanted to do ABC, so I'm going to just keep going down that path. It's a really good idea to evaluate and update your strategic career plan at least once a year, every 6 months. Touching base on it, I think, is good. As part of key number 2, when you're thinking about your strengths and what you'd like to add to those and add to your experience, etc., these are some of the top leadership strengths that Development Dimensions International, a management consulting firm, asserts are important. And we'd encourage you to listen to the recording later, write these down, and take a look at where you stand on this leadership wheel. How are you doing? And give yourself a ranking, 1 to 10. And are there areas that you would like to add to your plan because you need to build on those or improve? And some of these, just by the way, well, 2 things I'll say. Some of these may not be as relevant to the role that you're in now, but they may be relevant for the role that you'd like to be in, or vice versa. So don't just assume that you have to be perfect at all of these. And that leads to my second point of, this isn't about like having everything be perfect at all times. It's saying to yourself, okay, what are the most important leadership strengths I need to have to get to where I want to go, but also that I feel like I can develop based on who I am as a person, or making sure that I'm developing them, if you will, in the right way. Because this is about fit and not just trying to become someone that you're not. For example, if you're more introverted like I am, forcing yourself to become more extroverted, it's not realistic. Okay. And key number 3, our third and last one, and then we'll make sure we let you all go on time here today. We appreciate your time. obviously to create your plan. So we've given you the building blocks of what we want you to at least consider. And just by the way, when you're creating your plan, you may have one goal in each of the squares on the model, but with some of them, you may have two or three. Again, it just depends on where you are in your career, what makes the most sense for you, where you want to be going. So don't make up that your plan has to have like 5 goals under each, piece of the model. It depends on your situation and what your goals are. Guidelines for your plan overall, though, in the long run, is you want to think about, okay, how long do I want to be working? How many more years until retirement, or whatever it is for you. And it's a good idea to start at X number of years, like let's say it's 5 or 10 years or whatever it is, and work backwards and give yourself some guidelines of like 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, something like that that makes sense for you. And work backwards from with the end in mind, because that's going to help you adjust the timeline or time frame for your goals. We would suggest, I already said this, using the ideal career model and have approximately 1 or 2 goals under each piece. We really like it if our clients will develop a vision as well as a plan. And this is like creating a vision board, or even if it's just journaling about each of the pieces of the model and what you would want each of those to look like. That can help you as well. And then as part of your plan, make sure that you're also including, as a side note, but also an important piece, what could be my obstacles to success to making this happen? And how am I going to address those? Whether it's procrastination, whether it's I tend to get, complacent about something. It could be that, I don't know if I can get the certification that I would like in the amount of time that I'm putting here. So do you need to push that back a little bit? Or do you need to find another way to make that happen? Is there something else you need to say no to in order to say yes to that certification? And then finally, at the very beginning, we do think it's a good idea to check your plan and update it quarterly, like for the next year, give or take, because it's new for you and you're just starting to kind of lay things out. And then after that, after things are running a little bit more smoothly, you may move to twice a year, like we said. We have a template that we give to our clients, and it's something that it gives you a starting point for it, and you can kind of adjust it with your coach based on what makes the most sense for you. So a couple of other things in addition to the obstacles, we've touched on these already. Training and experience, make sure that you're including the critical roles that you want to have along the way. Thinking about, okay, if I stay at my current organization and in my current job, is it going to move me towards where I want to be? And some people will ask themselves, because they're not sure if they want to move up into the C-suite. Some people will say, nope, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to manage people. All of this stuff goes into your plan. The blocks to success goes in there, like we said. And also think about where you're going to get some support and accountability for this plan too. Is it from people within your network? Is it a career coach? Is it a mentor, friend, or family member? Make sure that you let someone know that you've created this plan. Share it with them, get their feedback. We do this with our clients all the time, so that you are staying true to what your goals are and you have some structure to say, okay, I'm going to check in with you quarterly on this and make some adjustments in this first year and then go beyond that. So bottom line, if we were to summarize kind of like our main objective here for today that we want you to take away, is we want you to be the CEO of your own career and make sure that you're, headed on the right track. You're marketing your skills along the way so that you're building your brand. You're developing your own portfolio of, experiences and skills that are going to be helpful for you along the way. You're always making sure that you're taking some risks, and you're building those transferable skills and asking for that promotion when it's time to do so, and making sure that you're achieving the work-life balance that you want to achieve and how that looks best for you as well. So we want people to think about their evolution of their career over time. And please know that as you're working through this, before we go today, if you do have questions you want to ask us, you can email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. In our 30 minutes, we don't usually do Q&A because we don't have enough time. But as you're thinking about this and the long term, please know that if you don't know exactly what the long term goal is quite yet, that's okay. Like that can be part of what you need to figure out. And you're not necessarily going to know what you need to do exactly specifically in year 5 to get to the next step. You don't have to have every single thing laid out with a fine tooth comb. Just get started with it. Build something out as a starting point. We can help you with this. We're happy to do that. And we've got the information there to contact us about our coaching, but just at least get something. Like you can take this in baby steps. What we find is when people at least like write something down and get moving on it and get going, that's a huge step in the right direction because they're putting it out there into the universe, so to speak, and kind of taking a stand for what they really want. All right. So before we go, I just wanted to thank you all again for your time today. We greatly appreciate it. Look out in your email for the recording. It may go to your spam, so you may just want to double check that. It should come by, end of the day tomorrow at the latest. I believe it comes out immediately. And please let us know if you'd like to talk about coaching with us, or if you've got a friend or family member that could use it. We would be happy to help. Have a great day, everyone, and happy Memorial Day. Bye-bye.